Tonight, students of the Federal University FUOYE demand justice after the body of the missing student was found in a shallow grave within the university. Seminarian killed after gunmen set ablaze a Catholic church in Zangun Kataf, Kaduna State. Police launches manhunt for the perpetrators. And normalcy returns to Garki Market in the Federal Capital Territory following the intervention of the police in the fracas that left 2 persons injured.
On business news tonight, global rice price hits 15-year high as India cuts supply, according to United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization.
And from the nation's capital, International Human Rights Commission advocates strict implementation of human rights laws in conflict zones to protect fundamental rights of civilians.
And in international news from London, people living in Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine are being asked to vote in what authorities there are describing as local elections.
Begin tonight with a call for justice after the gruesome murder of a 200-level nursing student of the Federal University FUOYE, Modupe Atonda, an incident which has left the institution and the entire Ekiti state horrified. The victim had earlier in the week been declared missing within the school premises, but was later found buried in a shallow grave in a bush on the campus after more than 24 hours of search. This led the management of the institution to temporarily shut down the school, as her colleagues called for justice and better security within the school.
All of us combed the entire university until we discovered that. And immediately after that, suspects, I use the word suspects, people who worked within the vicinity where that thing happened, and even security men on duties have all been arrested for questioning at the state CID. And the investigation continues. The school will leave no stone unturned to get to the root of this matter. In honor of this soul, the school remains closed, having been approved by the Vice Chancellor of the university and the management of this university to prevent trouble.
Meanwhile, the police, while corroborating that arrests have been made, debunked claims that some of her body parts are missing.
The Commissioner of Police, immediately the body was found, has ordered a discreet investigation into the matter, and investigation will reveal actually what happened. Meanwhile, 10 people, or 10 suspects have been arrested and they are in custody, undergoing investigation currently.
Staying with crime, a 21-year-old man who allegedly killed his wife with a stick and another who fatally injured a young man with a machete are some of the suspects the Edo State Police Command paraded today. The command spokesperson, Chidi Nwabuzo, disclosed that investigation into these and other crimes by other suspects in their custody is ongoing, with an assurance that the law will take its course. And a seminarian has been killed in an attack on St. Raphael's Catholic Church in Zangun Kataf local government area of Kaduna State by gunmen suspected to be bandits. According to a statement by the police, the bandits in their large numbers stormed the parish on Thursday night and set the building ablaze alongside a vehicle parked on the premises. Spokesperson of the command, Manira Hassan, adds that the late seminarian, Stephen Dalamy, is believed to have died from the smoke he inhaled while trying to escape from the fire, while other priests managed to escape. While the police say manhunt has been launched for the assailant, the state governor, Obasani, has condemned the killing and asked security agencies to swiftly investigate the incident and ensure that the culprits are arrested and made to face the full wrath of the law. Governor Sonny says he believes the attack was carried out with the sole intention of igniting ethnic and religious tensions in the state and sabotaging government's efforts at rebuilding trust in the communities. Over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where normalcy has been restored at the Garki Market in Abuja after yesterday's violent disruption involving personnel of the Department of State Services, the DSS. Well, the FCT police had to be called in to quell the fallout of the confrontation between occupants of the market and several individuals, including the staff of the DSS and a tailor named Muhammad Habibu. During the altercation, 2 people were injured from gunshot reportedly fired by the DSS operative. In reaction, the DSS says it is investigating the incident and will take appropriate disciplinary measures against any staff found culpable. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
The Garki Modern Market is one of the most organized markets in the nation's capital and is not known for crisis situations. That calm was disrupted on September the 7th, 2023. Videos on social media show people running helter-skelter following the sounds of gunshots. Amid the ruckus, a few notice the police are on ground and there's a body lying on the floor, though it is not lifeless. This black truck in the video there is believed to belong to the DSS. And as we see from the video, irate youth are hitting that vehicle. They claim that the DSS operatives had been trying to take that body on the floor into that car. Unsuccessful, the car drives off. While one DSS operative was held in custody by the police at the market. Later, a statement from the FCT Police Command gives details of the incident, stating that the impasse involved a DSS operative and a tailor. According to the statement, shots were fired and a tailor, Mubarak, was injured. Further investigations show that another stray bullet hit a bead maker called Lovett directly on her face. Irate youth took their anger out on the police outposts within the market. As the police sue for calm, the Department of State Services says it has received information of the incident allegedly involving their operative and has commenced an investigation into the incident, promising proper dispensation of justice. We make our way back to the market to get some eyewitness account of the incident and the status of those that have been hurt.
But the way the thing started, we heard that a tailor was giving clothes for amendment by a client. Then, according to the tailor that was interviewed, he said the case is already in police station. Then suddenly, instead of DSS, on the arrival, we were expected to meet, as in go straight to police station and ask the channel of the whole thing. Suddenly, now went straight to tailor shop, started beating the tailor.
Shot like 3 times yesterday. So in process around this place, so they are trying to move him, put him inside the car. One policeman here in the Garki International Market, he was dragging him down, also dragging him down. So no, he already with somebody. I want to take him away again. No, it's not possible.
So far, the market authorities tell us that the DSS operative who was incarcerated by the police has been handed over for proper investigation. They also confirmed the injuries of 2 victims who are receiving treatment at the Garki Hospital and the Cedar Hospital in Gudu.
He froze when they shot the first time, and then they shot him in the leg. And they didn't stop at that. They started dragging him to their car. It was at that point that tailors and traders rushed out and said, no, you can't shoot this guy and still be dragging him into the car. And that was what happened. So I just saw Mubarak at the Garki at the Garki Hospital, and he's slated for surgery. He's in pain, great pain. Still, he's bleeding a bit, and the trauma is a lot. The lady Lovett, Garki had to move her to Cedar Crest, which has better facilities for maxillofacial surgeries and all. And as we hear, even the surgeons there can't manage her situation right now, and an expert is going to be flown into the country to help.
We were sent a video of Lovett, who is receiving treatment at the Cedar Crest Hospital. We were, however, able to meet with Mubarak at the emergency ward of the Garki Hospital. The married father of one confirms the name of the woman who called the DSS on him and says he has been working for her for 5 years. He wants justice served.
Call her Rashida. and also Mama Nana, that's her name. And she's in CBN quarters at the back of Owando fuel station, beside Garki Market. That's the CBN quarters she's living. First of all, I want to see myself okay first. Whatever will happen, let me be okay. And the court of law or the agency, they know what to do.
Anything you want to say to the woman that called DSS on you?
Nothing. There is nothing I will tell her.
Thank you very much.
But I would like to see her.
You want to see her?
Yes, face to face.
What would you say? What would you do when you see her?
What I will tell her, it is when I see her. Because we have been doing business for more than 5 years. I have never disappointed. She knew.
It is a scenario that has become all too popular, not just in the nation's capital, but across the country. Two people have an issue. One person has friends or relations in a particular security agency and goes on to employ the full weight of that advantage on his perceived opponent. And allegedly, that's what happened in this situation. While Mubarak and Lovett are still being treated for their wounds, the lesson to be learned from this scenario is to learn to use the proper channels when one feels like he's not empowered enough to handle a situation. Because many occasions, employing the full weight of a security agency on your opponent usually doesn't end well. From the Garki Hospital in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
And after the courts, where the National and State Houses of Assembly Election Petition Tribunal, sitting in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, has sacked Mr. Emmanuel Odende of the All Progressives Congress APC and returned Mr. Gabriel Suswam of the People's Democratic Party PDP as a senator-elect for Benue Northeast Senatorial District in the 2023 election. Chairman of the three-man tribunal, Justice Orizik Ikoa, and a member of the tribunal held that the petitioner, Mr. Suswam, proved the allegation of overvoting, mutilation and cancellation of result and electoral malpractices in 5 of the 7 local government areas of the senatorial district. The tribunal chairman then discounted 51,895 votes from Mr. Odende and 21,229 votes from that of Mr. Suswam before recalculating their final vote, leaving Mr. Suswam with 90,560 or 70 votes to beat the incumbent Mr. Odende, who is left with 82,699 votes. Meanwhile, one of the tribunal members disagreed with that decision.
Votes that were not collected or were cancelled were not valid for the first respondent. So they were supposed to be collected in favor of the first respondent, the first petitioner in the matter. And because it is the first petitioner in the matter, Gabriel Suswam, that was validly elected, he is supposed to have been returned by the third respondent, INEC, as the person that was validly elected. So the court has ordered that in that regard, the certificate of return that was issued to the first respondent in this petition, Emmanuel Odende, should be cancelled and a fresh return certificate be issued to the first petitioner, Gabriel Suswam.
It is something that is normal when you come to court. A party is bound to win, one party is bound to lose. But the good thing about losing in a matter is that there are appellate divisions of the Court of Appeal, from the High Court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. So it is not exhaustive. Yes, we've lost here, but at least we still have an opportunity to also look at the judgment and express ourselves.
In part 2, after the break, International Human Rights Commission advocates strict implementation of human rights laws in conflict zones to protect fundamental rights of civilians. But that's in a moment. Stay with us. You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Students of the Federal University Oyekiti demand justice after the body of a missing student was found in a shallow grave within the university. Seminarian killed after gunmen set ablaze a Catholic church in Zangun Kataf, Kaduna State. Police launches manhunt for the perpetrators. Normalcy returns to Garki Market in the Federal Capital Territory following the intervention of the police in the fracas that left 2 persons injured. And people living in Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine are being asked to vote in what the authorities are describing as local elections. For the nation's politics to stabilize, politicians should see their parties beyond mere contractions and as a vehicle to only ascend into power without the positive gains of leadership. This was stated today in Abuja during a presentation and preliminary findings from the needs assessment of political parties in Nigeria, which is organized by the Kuka Center in partnership with the European Union Support Democratic Governance in Nigeria.
People are trying to just mumble their way through it.
The Kuka Center, implementers of Component 3 of the European Union, which is support to democratic governance in Nigeria, held a validation session for political parties to review the first draft report of the needs of assessment conducted in the last few months. In attendance were representatives of political parties who have had the time to go over the draft and make suggestions. In his remarks, founder of the Kuka Center, Bishop Matthew Kuka, shed light on the importance of the project.
A lot of people were consulted. It's quite elaborate. People were asked all kinds of questions. And I'm hopeful that everybody will read this report. Because it's pretty well written, but it also has recommendations. And if we begin to attempt to implement those recommendations, we will begin a process of energizing our democracy. But let us not assume that there are going to be a bunch of wonderful human beings who at some point in time will descend on Nigeria and change the politics of Nigeria completely. That's not how that's not how politics is played out.
He also spoke on what political parties must do to have a better leadership structure.
They have to create nobility around politics. They have to establish discipline, culture, because finally, in every political process, there's what you call political culture. And political culture speaks to the ethical choices that members of parties have to imbibe, a certain level of discipline that members of political parties have to imbibe. So for me, those are the issues.
On what should be done to mitigate the often unusual cross-capiting amongst members of different political parties and act to regulate these parties, the majority leader of the House of Representatives, Julius Ihovere, had this to say.
It is through political practice, through political engagement, through give and take, negotiation, understanding, and seeing what you lose when you violate the rules. It is through that people begin to learn adequate lessons for political stability.
From some of the public findings made, a recommendation was also made to the electoral umpire, INEC, on how to effectively carry out its functions.
Another recommendation from across the interviews with members of the political parties is the fact that the work is too much for INEC. INEC cannot register, deregister, conduct elections, prosecute offenders. That is why it's important to, unbundle that and separate the work and make it easier for INEC to concentrate on things that will make and bring integrity to the entire process.
Stakeholders at this event are hopeful that the findings of the project will be adopted and implemented for the growth of political parties, for the enhancement of pluralism, internal democracy, and equity within political parties. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Well, let's now head over to our Abuja studio where Terry Kumi has more stories lined up. Good evening, Terry.
Good evening, Kayode. The International Human Rights Commission is advocating the strict implementation of international human rights laws in armed conflict zones in order to protect the rights of civilians. The Commission also underscores the importance of good governance, which it says is a panacea to the rise in cases of armed conflict in Africa that has made many become victims of human rights abuses. The call for the strict implementation of international human rights and the delivery of good governance are the focus of the Symposium on International Human Rights Laws and Armed Conflicts, organized by the International Human Rights Commission in Abuja.
Representatives of the diplomatic corps, traditional rulers and senior legal practitioners are attending this symposium on international humanitarian law and armed conflict in Abuja.
Discussants this morning, thank you for being.
The crux of the discussion is how to protect the rights of civilians and other non-combatant in armed conflict zones. To begin the conversation, the host emphasizes the imperative of the subject, which is international humanitarian law and armed conflict, an African perspective.
This has become even more urgent in the light of recent happenings across Africa. We all know that. Characterized by insecurity, violence, the return of military takeovers, and overall escalation of armed conflicts. This complicity of conflicts, as we currently witness in some countries in Africa, are precisely the issue that pose challenges to international humanitarian law.
According to the 2022 Human Rights Watch report, human rights violations is on the rise in at least 26 African countries, including Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and Central African Republic. In Nigeria, the National Human Rights Commission received over 1.7 million complaints of human rights violations in 2021 alone. Many of these violations include torture, extrajudicial killings, and unlawful arrests and detention.
Talking from perspective of...
The panel discussion focuses on how to address the challenge of human rights abuses.
One of the ways to curb armed conflict is that to ensure that those who engage in them are properly punished and brought to book. And if people are not punished or brought to book, they will continue to abuse the rights of others.
I believe that with the Permanent International Criminal Court at The Hague, and with the evangelism we do today, I believe that a lot of persons who violate rules of IHL in Africa must and will be punished.
However, the keynote speaker underscores the reason for the spike in armed conflicts in Africa.
From Mali to Guinea, from Burkina Faso to Niger Republic, and of recent, in Gabon. What are the causes of these conflicts? Such taking up of arms. To me, against oppressors, I do not regard it as a coup d'etat. I regard it as good riddance to bad rubbish.
The keynote speaker, who warns against military intervention in any of the African countries where the military has seized power, also has another message for African leaders.
Your Excellency, Secretary General, help me convey my very strong message to African leaders to give governance, good governance to the people, and where they are not ready for the gains, they should be ready for the pains.
There is a surge in armed conflicts on the African continent, which has led to the violation of fundamental human rights of most citizens. Many hope that the recommendations from this symposium will prefer solutions to this problem.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, says the federal government is committed to providing sustainable solutions to humanitarian challenges confronting internally displaced persons in Borno, the Northeast, and all troubled states across the Federation. Dr. Edu gave the assurance during an assessment tour of camps and facilities housing IDPs and victims of insurgency in Borno State. The minister notes that over 8 million IDPs are lacking shelter, food, and basic social amenities across the Northeast region. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and the company of officials of the Borno State government arrived to the Muna camp of the internally displaced persons along Mafa Road in Jere local government area of the state to assess the living conditions of residents of the camp. After the visit, she then proceeds to the Shehu's palace for a courtesy call and then to the government house. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State is excited at the renewed collaboration with the federal government and hopes that it will bring succor to all displaced persons.
Governor Budo said, first and foremost,
partner with you under these 3 critical areas of reducing poverty, supporting SMEs, addressing challenges of internally displaced persons, and then last but not least, repatriating our refugees. But most importantly, how can we navigate out from providing shorter-term solutions to medium and longer-term sustainable solutions? Sustainable and durable solutions are some of the issues that we want to work with you.
Shortly after the meeting, the minister speaks to journalists on her observations from the assessment.
The idea is to go around and see the living conditions and what interventions are already ongoing presently and how we can improve on those conditions. We also want to make it a more resilient system such that we don't have people who are permanently IDPs for life. We don't want people who are permanently dependent on government for handouts for life. We want to be able to move them through livelihoods, durable solutions, from being IDPs to becoming self-dependent to be able to cater for their families.
While most internally displaced persons have been settled in their communities, poor shelter, food and potable water still remain challenges not only for them, but also for those still at the camp. But still ahead on the news at 10, global rice prices hit 15-year high as India cut supply. That's according to the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization. And that's on Business News. To join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A winner has emerged in the photo exhibition and screening organized by the Nigeria office of the World Intellectual Property Organization, supported by the Art for Humanity Foundation and Sony Nigeria. Tagged Her Intellectual Property Story, the project empowered 13 female photographers and filmmakers to capture and document impact-based stories of ways female innovators, creatives and entrepreneurs are using their intellectual property across various fields in Nigeria. Our correspondent, Victor Matthias, has a report.
A sense of camaraderie rents the air as friends and families of 13 female filmmakers and photographers are gathered at the UN House Abuja to witness the finale of the Her Intellectual Property Story Project photo exhibition and screening, organized by the Nigeria office of the World Intellectual Property Organization and supported by Art for Humanity as well as Sony Nigeria. Exchange of pleasantries and admiration of the displayed work done, the guests are seated alongside the finalists and organizers of the program, where the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Mr. Matthias Schmale, in his keynote address, emphasizes the need to empower women in the society.
Nigeria has an abundance of women that could lead the country, and it remains a mystery. And the longer I'm here, the more it becomes a mystery that women are not central to how this country runs itself and to its development work. So I really think we need to do much more if we are serious about rescuing development in Nigeria, to give space to the abundant talent that is here among women.
The participants of the Her Intellectual Property Story project received certificates of participation we get a glimpse of some selected documentaries, after which the winner is announced.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winning film is Rooted. Yes.
An excited Adamawa-born Chavala Yaduma describes the inspiration behind her entry, just as the organizers explain how the winner was picked.
I admire people with natural hair. Shout out to Chimamanda Adichie. I really love what she does with her hair, and other people that, embrace their natural hair and always flaunt it. So because of that, I felt like I wanted to do something that I would relate to so deeply in that sense. Most of the times I tell stories, I want to be able to connect with them in one way or the other. So that's why I decided to do something on hair, because of my own journey and my own struggles.
We're really delighted to see what they've come through. In terms of the winners, all the ladies came back with submissions, and we had a very blind process where a grading criteria was shared across the partners, and with an averaging of scores, we identified the winners.
Other ladies present share insights from their experiences as well as highlight ways in which intellectual property makes a difference in the lives of women in Nigeria.
They spoke to us about the different processes and the different challenges they faced as women. There's a power that women have in storytelling that when you see a woman tell a story, you know there's a lot more empathy in how we tell our stories. And so, they brought people to sort of mentor us in how to harness these skills.
They did a great job at the workshop in educating us about what World Intellectual Property Organization is about and equipping us to go into the field and carry out our personal projects.
Interesting times lie ahead as projects like this will keep empowering Nigerian women and raising awareness on the importance of protecting one's intellectual property and reaping the benefits of creating such property. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
I would love to see more of that. Now, the Akwa Ibom State Governor, Pastor Omoyeno, has charged the people of the state to take responsibility for the security of government facilities in their areas to prevent vandalization of such projects. He gave the charge while commissioning internal roads at Akwa Market in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, to mark his first 100 days in office.
Akwa Entrepreneurial Village, popularly known as Akwa Market, is located along Udo-Umana Street in the heart of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. The commissioning of these internal roads within the market is a fulfillment of the governor's promise during his visit here, days after his inauguration.
We stand here today by the grace of the Almighty God to commission these projects to the glory of God, to the benefit of humanity, in the name of God the Father, Amen, the Son, Amen, and the Holy Spirit.
Market women, youth and others are joyful about the project. They sing and dance in appreciation of the gesture. While the chairman of Uyo local government area thanks the governor for fulfilling his promise to the people, the Commission of Works gives details of the project.
Your Excellency, we are very proud of you. We thank you so much for coming to make a pronouncement. Your Excellency, the hallmark of a true leader is his ability to make a pronouncement and bring it to accomplishment.
I can tell us that the job in this market, you did 8 projects together. Because first, this is Dia Street. We reconstructed 300 meters and 400 fresh on this road. You couldn't walk. Goods couldn't come into this road. Johnson Street, that was totally impassable, has been totally reconstructed.
Addressing the people, Governor Eno promises to do more by spreading development to all parts of the state.
We are determined to go round all the local governments as we begin one project per local government across the 31 local governments of our state. This will include schools, hospitals, markets, renovations such as this.
Akwa Entrepreneurial Village is the biggest market in the capital city of Uyo, and it's the first project commissioned by Umoyeno as governor of Akwa Ibom State.
That's a wrap from the nation's capital. Back to you, Coyote.
Well, it's more projects from here, Terry, but this time at the national level, as the President Bola Tinubu-led federal government has announced plans to construct 1,000 houses in 7 states. The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, disclosed this in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, where he commissioned several projects executed by Governor Babagana Zulum. In a statement issued by the Director of Information in the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Olushola Abiola, Senator Shettima says the mass housing, which is to be constructed in Sokoto, Katsina, Kebbi, Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger and Benue states, are part of a broad plan by President Tinubu's administration to address the conflict in the north. According to him, the project will come with other ancillary facilities such as schools, clinics, veterinary clinics, and ranches for Fulani community in Kaduna and Benue, so that all the victims of the conflict will also be carried along. Senator Shettima also disclosed that the president has approved 50 billion naira to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to kickstart the Pulaku Initiative, which is a non-kinetic solution to the insecurity in the Northwest. He further added that the federal government is planning to reignite the production of wheat in Nigeria. He assures that all the parts of the country will benefit from the developmental strides of the current administration. Well, there is an urgent need to promote and improve a recycling culture amongst corporate users, producers, and Nigerians at large. This was the main thrust at a Trash Talk workshop organized by the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance in partnership with the Lagos State government, which held here in Lagos State. The session allowed for a thorough and in-depth review of the current state of recycling in Lagos and the way forward.
Before we start with the introductions.
Seated in this room are industry players in the ecology and environment landscape.
We want to start introducing ourselves to...
Their main objective is to promote the recycling culture among Nigerians. But there's more.
The Trash Talk Alliance, or call it the Trash Talk Coalition, is a multi-sectoral coalition of corporate and the public sector and entire stakeholder that looks after compliance within this space to come together, review the entire policy around recycling, around waste management in the country, and chart a way forward that is actionable, that is smart, that continue to impact the lives and the living of every single Nigerian person.
Theme is appropriate, trash talk. It's the kind of thing that people think is not important. That's what you call trash. But in reality, this is the most important conversation globally today. It's about sustainability, and it's about whether this world will be habitable for us all over a period of time.
Stakeholders also emphasize the need for strategic partnerships.
The public-private partnership is essentially a gathering of stakeholders who are all committed, towards achieving the objective of the recycling of waste management, and particularly turning waste into wealth, not just in Lagos, but also in Nigeria. And more than ever before, this summit has been able to put together every single stakeholder within that entire value chain in the room.
It's impossible for government to do it alone. We do not have the manpower, we do not have the human resource, we do not have the capacity, and it's a joint responsibility because we have to work with Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, we have to work with SON, we have to work with these guys that bring these things we want to tackle into the market.
There is a need for concerted action amongst all the stakeholders, which includes regulators, essentially the government, the private sector, civil society, financiers, and all others. And an alliance like this that is made up of businesses that, one way or the other, their businesses affect the environment.
Feel free to write it down or exchange.
Facilitators of the Trash Talk workshop are confident outcomes at this two-day event will include a 3-year roadmap outlining short, medium and long-term plans to enable Lagos State beat packaging waste pollution by the year 2025.
He actually creates and captures value for the organization.
Well, business news is next on the news at 10 with Anne Mawado.
Thank you, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with global oil prices, which have reached a 15-year high in August after top exporter India banned some overseas sales of grain. According to the report from the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO notes that while global food prices eased in the month of August, those of rice rose 9.8%, and that's when you compare it to the previous month. Rice is a major world's food staple, and prices on international markets have gone up in the wake of the COVID pandemic, geopolitical tensions and weather disasters. But India accounts for more than 40% of all global rice shipments, and in July this year, the country announced a ban on exports of non-basmati white rice. As Holdings Group Chairman Tony Elumelu is asking the Indian private sector to invest in Nigeria, citing the country's huge market. A statement by As Holdings Group says that Mr. Elumelu made this known at the Nigeria-India Presidential Roundtable and Conference in New Delhi, India, which had President Bola Tinubu in attendance on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Mr. Elumelu believes that this is a time to invest in Nigeria, not just for Indian investors, but from other parts of the world. Ghana is working on legislation to regulate the production of carbon credits at sites in the country, according to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Well, this move follows steps already taken on the continent, from Zimbabwe to Kenya, to help implement laws and ensure that both the government and local communities get a greater share of benefits from the production of offsets, with most of the money earned to date having flowed out of the nations. The African Union, in a declaration at the inaugural Africa Climate Summit, committed to implementing a mix of measures that elevate Africa's share of carbon markets. And in the United Kingdom, Heathrow Airport is set to cut passenger charges by almost a fifth next year, and that's after losing an appeal to the UK competition watchdog. In March this year, the Civil Aviation Authority asked Heathrow to cut charges by about 20% next year, after airlines convinced the CAA to reassess airport's plan to increase airline fees to more than £40 a passenger. While prices will remain the same for 2023, the average maximum per passenger fee will drop from £31.5 this year to £25.4 in 2024, and that will stay broadly flat until the end of 2026. And back here in Nigeria, let's head to the equities market. It ended the final trading session of the week at this color green today. The positive sentiment returned to the markets. Let's hear the details from Will Ibong.
Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Final trading day, and the bull pulls a winning move and crosses the finish line after 2 days of profit taking. And O&O led this charge. The stock appreciated by 10% today. The company's share price has been on the uptrend ever since it announced Monday that it had agreed to acquire Agip Oil Company from Italian multinational energy company ENI. We've seen O&O's share price move from 5 naira 55 kobo at the start of the week to 7 naira 70 kobo today. That's a weekly growth of 39%. And O&O's gain managed to keep the oil and gas index in positive territory. A bit of a shake-up there, and we would have been looking at a red close. Meanwhile, manufacturing company Chelarams recorded the biggest loss today, followed closely by tech company Omatech. 3 days of gains, 2 days of losses. Positive market breadth with a 0.09% close. What more can the market ask for? And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Will Ibong. It's back to you, Anne.
Thanks a lot for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Nwawodo. Kayode will be back with the rest of the news at 10. Have a wonderful weekend.
Well, thank you, Anne. People living in Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine have been voting in what the authorities describe as local elections. Many taking part in early polling have been asked to cast their vote in the presence of armed Russian soldiers. Ukraine's government has called the polls a sham, saying the votes will not have any legal standing. We'll hear Simon Puser with more international news and Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. People living in Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine are being asked to vote in what the authorities are describing as local elections. Ukraine's foreign minister called the polls a sham, saying the votes will not have any legal standing. Candidates are all either Russian or pro-Russian and include governors handpicked by Moscow. Many taking part in early polling have been asked to cast their votes in the presence of armed Russian soldiers. Ukrainian officials have warned people not to participate. They say any Ukrainian citizens involved in organizing the elections can expect to be punished in the future. Hong Kong and southern Chinese cities are battling widespread flooding as the region endures some of its heaviest rainfall on record. On On Friday, streets and subway stations were underwater in Hong Kong as officials shut schools and workplaces. The Weather Bureau said the downpour, which began on Thursday, is the biggest to hit the city in nearly 140 years. Emergency services said more than 100 people have been taken to hospital and several rescues had taken place. Pictures from the city show torrential rain turning streets into rivers, flooding shopping centres and public transport. Leaders from the world's richest nations have been arriving in Delhi in India for the start of the G20 summit. This is the first time the country will be hosting such a high-profile event, with the authorities pulling out all the stops when it comes to preparations. Leaders such as Joe Biden and Rishi Sunak have been arriving, although Russian President Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping won't attend. The G20 countries account for 85% of the world's economic output and 75% of all world trade. They contain 2/3 of the... Authorities in Westchester in Pennsylvania have stepped up a manhunt for a convicted murderer who escaped prison after scaling a wall. Danilo Cavalcante, who is originally from Brazil, escaped the Chester County prison last Thursday by scaling the prison walls. A number of reported sightings reportedly placed the fugitive in a heavily wooded rural area around 2 miles from the prison. Cavalcante was convicted of murdering his former girlfriend and sentenced to life in prison. Authorities have advised residents to be aware of empty properties where Cavalcante could be hiding and to contact police for any searches of empty homes.
In total, there have been 4 sightings within that boundary. The most recent credible sighting occurred yesterday afternoon, also within that bordered area. We have secured that area and continue to actively search it. While there are a number of challenges, we are confident that if he is in there, we will find him.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has taken part in a ceremony to reveal what Pyongyang says is its first submarine capable of launching nuclear weapons. State media said the sub strengthened the country's nuclear deterrent by leaps and bounds. It has been named Hero Kim Kun-ok after a North Korean naval officer and historical figure. A nuclear submarine has long been on the list of weapons North Korea wants to build. Britain has been marking the 1-year anniversary of the death of the Queen. There were gun salutes across the country to mark 1 year of King Charles's reign.
We recall with great affection her long life, devoted service, and all she meant to so many of us.
The King wrote a message and released a favourite photograph of Elizabeth II to mark the first anniversary of his mother's death. King Charles and Queen Camilla also attended a private memorial service in Scotland. And Prince William has been left shocked after unexpectedly bumping into the England football legend Paul Gascoigne while on an official visit to a sandwich shop.
Paul Gascoigne, how are you? Is it actually you? Yes. Yeah, how are you doing? Come to see you. What are you doing? How are you? You all right? Yeah, not bad.
The Prince was visibly surprised to see Gazza, the former Tottenham and England legend, standing amongst the crowd. The second in line to the British throne was in Pret to learn about the company's programmes to tackle poverty. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Boxing heavyweight champion Tyson Fury says he's not underestimating his Cameroonian opponent Francis Ngannou as the former UFC champion makes his boxing debut against the WBC and linear world champion. Fury and Ngannou maintained a positive tone through a promotional event in London ahead of the October the 28th bout in Riyadh. And Germany head coach Gordon Herbert has hailed a special group of players after they stamped the United States earlier today to reach the Basketball World Cup final. Germany stood toe-to-toe with their celebrated American opponent for the full game in Manila and emerged with a 113-111 win to advance to a final showdown with Serbia on Sunday. That's it on sports. Back to you, Kayode.
Well, thank you, Chris. And the main news again. Students of the Federal University Oyekiti are demanding justice after the body of a missing student was found in a shallow grave within the university. Police say 10 arrests have been made. And a seminarian serving at the St. Raphael Catholic Church in Zangun Kataf, Kaduna State, Stephen Dalamy, has been killed after gunmen set the seminary ablaze. Well, that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Mikilu. Good night.